Hey everyone, I hope you have had a well-deserved rest or holiday after the symposium. It's been a very tiring few months of preparation just for a total of 5 hours of symposium. But I guess I can say that's well worth it. And to all of you watching now, thanks for tuning into our session today with our lovely board of directors. This session will cover some interesting topics from the point of view of Malaysian students, both living in Malaysia and the UK. I'll be the chair for this session. My name is Ayappa and I'm the head of MBIOS Malaysia. Just a little bit about myself. As the head of MBIOS Malaysia, I'm tasked with expanding the society's outreach in Malaysia, which includes the local bioscience students who are interested in to be a part of MBIOS. Right, so we will start with the first question towards Xiao and Wenwen. Right. So, how have the lockdown or MCO has affected you as a student all around? The closure of universities and the transition from face-to-face teachings or lab research to online for both undergraduate and postgraduate. I think we'll hear from Xiao first.
Hello, yeah. So actually my university decided on 13th of March that all scheduled face-to-face teaching events, including lectures, tutorials, workshops, and practicals are suspended. So despite the fact that the teaching staff tried to deliver as many of these activities online, but the learning experience was not as the same as physical presence in the campus. It's a steep learning curve for everyone, and me as well, and we have no choice but to adapt very quickly. Thank God, most of the practicals of mine have been conducted in the early 2020, so the practical part of the course of the year two was not affected that much. Also, we are being informed that assessment scheduled to happen in exam halls was cancelled. Everything was converted online. For me, lockdown itself doesn't cause a significant impact on my academics, but the stress due to lockdown and the worries about uncertainties in the past few months distracted me from my study as things were up in the air. The transition was pretty smooth because the teaching department gave us an early notice on the changes on teaching and assessments. In June, I received notice from UCL that our campus will be open for the start of the term, but necessarily the next academic year is going to be very different from the previous ones. And we have adapted to living, working, and studying through the global coronavirus pandemic. To be honest, I'm more worried about how will practicals in term 2 and term 3 turn out with the social distancing measures put into practice. Finger crossed there won't be a second wave, so we could get back to our nearly normal uni life by that time. Yeah, that's all from me.
Yeah, thank you very much, Xiao, for your insight. So what about postgraduate students? What do you think, Wenwen?
Yeah, so for me, Imperial went into sort of like that shutdown period about 18th of March. I think the undergraduates were actually told not to come onto campus a little bit earlier than the postgraduates because they were still trying to figure out, how to shut down the labs. Obviously, there were people who were running experiments, and then there's a lot of health and safety involved with, doing a proper shutdown because nobody knew how long we were going to be away. And there's obviously going to be equipment that needs to be maintained. You need to make sure that everything is safe before, people basically leave and not come back for an extended period of time. It was a little bit difficult for myself personally because I'm largely a wet lab researcher, and obviously, you can't do any of your wet lab work when you're working from home. So I was fairly lucky in the sense that I had a bit of data already saved up, so I was already planning to write during that period anyway. But I know there were some people, who may not have had like huge data sets to work on their computers at home, or they didn't have any writing to do. So that was more difficult, I think, for some of those researchers compared to myself. That being said, I did, eventually run out of things to do at home. But just about that time was when they started to announce that they're going to start like a phased reopening of the labs. And that's the new thing that we had to adjust to. So that was shift working. That's basically like them trying to get in as many researchers as possible into the lab while still maintaining strict social distancing measures. So I was working really odd shifts, starting at 7:30 in the morning, which is definitely not something that I would do voluntarily because I don't like to wake up super early. But I was going in at 7:30 in the morning. I was leaving at midday. It was all very, very strange and definitely not something that I was used to. And it was for a period of time when the social distancing measures were still really strict. We couldn't have that many researchers in the lab. And although that isn't, too much of a concern, because I felt like I was getting, enough time in, but for me, it's because I'm not able to work with my colleagues, and everything was just because, they couldn't be in the lab with me at the same time because we only could have that many people in at a time. And even until today, even though they've already sort of expanded capacity slightly, I still feel like I'm not back to my usual routine and my normal amount of productiveness. And I'm still trying to get used to that. I know for undergraduates, it's also very uncertain on whether or not they will be able to come back onto campus. But for the postgraduates, we are back on campus right now, but with this lingering feeling of, will they go into lockdown again? And will our projects get interrupted again? So it's, you're trying to squeeze in as much as possible because you don't know if that's going to happen. And there's all this, there's many different kinds of stresses and pressures coming from everywhere because of that. So yeah, I think the point is we're just trying to make the best of the situation right now. We just do whatever we can, and see how it goes. So yeah, that's how I've been handling this time right now.
Well, on an off note, don't you feel glad that you don't need to see your supervisor all the time? That you don't need to report your progress?
Yeah, because the way the university's done it is they would prefer as much as possible, for people who don't need to be using lab facilities to not come in. So my supervisor was not allowed to come in for many, many months until very recently. He's just gotten permission to come in, but still not as frequently as he would normally be allowed. So it was like maybe I was working probably 2.5 months without seeing my boss anywhere. But even so, now that he has actually come back to the lab, I realize how much more effective it is to actually discuss things with him just face to face on the spot. And I think that's something that I didn't realize, like how much more effective that can be, because previously I was just doing everything on video call. But I saw him the other day. I had a short discussion with him. Immediately we had plans that I knew I could work on. And whereas before that, it's like we would talk online, and somehow it wasn't as effective, I felt. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I still function probably better as a face-to-face communicator. Yeah.
As social beings, I guess we need that social communication, like the human to human communication, not through laptop or not through digital, right?
Yeah, it's just all the social cues and everything as well. Yeah.
What about Xiao? Xiao, how did all your transition go? Did you have more assignments, or how did it go?
Right. So the transition part was quite smooth, I would say, because I don't know why. Like, I think most undergraduate, including me, actually, I wouldn't say there's like a much difference, because most of the things that need to be like assessed should be done like by your own. So it's more on self-study. So not attending lectures, because it's not a huge problem for me. So just that, and actually personally, I'm quite glad that the assessment is being conducted in a way that we do coursework instead of like doing exams in the exam hall, because I think I function better at home than in the exam hall. So it's not a huge problem for me. Just that after staying home for 2 months time, people get bored. You get like you think things are getting dreadful and you want to meet people, but at that time most of people have flown back to like their own country. So I think the stress is the biggest issue during the lockdown, especially if you are living on your own. Glad that I have a very good flatmate living with me, so it's not a big problem. Yeah, thank you. I think
And
that's
that
all for
flatmate
me.
is Yanni?
Yeah, the flatmate is Yanni. Pretty funny, but yeah.
All right. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. So the impact of COVID-19 on students' achievements under unique individual circumstances, and like what will be the role of the educators in terms of the change in exam formats? Can you answer this, Sijing?
Yes. due to the COVID-19, most of our exams were conducted remotely, but there are some problems that students may face due to the change in exam format, like technical problem, like poor internet connections or online system issues, and also personal issues. For example, some people might not used to remote exam, and which might then affect their exam performance. Yeah. Besides, students who study abroad might be affected by the time zone too. Like I know there are like 11 hours gap between the UK and New Zealand. So last time my exam was in 10 a.m. So our course, there is one guy from New Zealand. He has to sit for the exam at 9 p.m. until 12 a.m. So like, yeah, this might be a bit um like bad to him in the time.
Very
Yeah.
troublesome lah. Yeah, very
Yeah,
troublesome lah.
like
Yeah.
at 12 a.m. and and regarding this problem, I think the educators are playing important roles in implementing well organized and student friendly exam procedure, such as allocating enough time for students to upload their exam answers and able to provide efficient and immediate support if students face any problem during the remote exam.
Okay. But
I think in regards to the time zone difference, I can add on something because for my university, they actually gave us like 24 hour. It's a 1 hour exam, but you got 24 hours to submit your task. So you can do it anytime. So I think that's a better strategy compared to just giving a certain time and you are in different places. You have to do it on the spot. I mean, yeah, at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, true.
But aren't you all glad that the exams are lesser and you all don't need to like study so much and do so many exams?
I don't think so, actually.
Yeah,
actually, I feel like I study more because I actually did coursework exams. So I need to really understand the topic to write well.
I disagree as well because my exam was 24 hours. All 4 of my exams were 24 hours and I wanted to make sure that I really maximize that 24 hours. So I studied everything and made really good notes so I knew where to find all my notes and just write everything in all at once. But I still used 24 hours to complete my exam. So,
Was it a lot of copy and pasting?
that is a secret.
Hola. Play, okay. All right. Okay, then we'll move on to the next question. Okay. Yeah. Our very own board of director is actually doing a podcast, Sound On. So, I guess she was talking about this in her podcast, like how social distancing and being encouraged to stay at home made like a sudden change in the lifestyle, which affects the mental health of the students. So, what can you comment on this, Melissa?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to mental health, right, because in isolation, I think all of our thoughts start getting very loud because we don't have our usual distractions, right? So for me, I think what I found really helped was to listen to myself. And I think in isolation, I've actually learned so much about myself that I previously didn't know. Yeah, so I think relating back to mental health, I think the most important part is probably stress. And then stress, it comes to productivity, right? Because bad productivity equals to stress and then it affects your mental health. So maybe I'll touch a bit on productivity. So I think it is very hard personally for me, and I think for a lot of other people also, to be productive in isolation, because as students, first of all, we are used to studying among our peers. For me, at least, like when I see people study, then okay, I stress, then I'll study. And secondly, also, we are used to following a timetable, right? Like, okay, 9 a.m. go to lecture, study, and then for example, like 6 p.m. then we are done. But then when it comes to virtual classes, because for me all of my classes are recorded, so we don't have a set timetable to follow, and suddenly you are left to your own motivation to sit down and listen to your lectures, which I found really hard because there's no one like taking my attendance and all that. So I think working from home is really a new normal. And what I found worked for myself is to finding what's suitable for you, because I think different people will have different ways of productivity, right? So for example, for me, because I work well when I see my friends working, so what I did was I study with them virtually. So basically I just on Skype, I see them study and then I'll study also. So it keeps me like, you know, focused. And then I think there are a lot of many other things. So I think there are like productivity apps on your phone to make sure that you don't touch your phone, for example, for like 2 hours. Yeah, so I think it's a lot about, I don't think there is a set rule for productivity. I think it's more of listening to yourself and finding what works for you. And also, I think most importantly is to learn how to take breaks, right? For example, whether it's like Netflix or online games, I think that will really help on our mental health as well, to like know when to detach from your work and chill. Yeah.
So you said you have to see your friends study, then and then you want to study. You kiasu, is it?
No, I'm not kiasu, because I always study in the library. So it's like I have no library, so I create my own library. Yeah.
So you're more like that group study kind of person. You can't
Yes,
study by
yes.
yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. But I guess your friends they were able to help you lah, because they were able to join you on your Skype sessions and whatnot, and then you guys can study together. Was it hard because of the sometimes the internet connection would be affected?
Yeah, I think internet connection can be a problem as well. But I think for me personally, I studied with, like, the people I studied with aren't my course, so it didn't involve any discussion or anything. It's basically just, you know, we can just mute our microphones and we just study. Like, so the internet connection wasn't really like a problem for me. Yeah.
I see you, you see me, study, that's it.
Yeah. Wait, am I the only one like that? Oh my gosh. Okay.
I'm sure you have
Yes,
all,
you
your
are.
friends are also like that.
May I know
Yeah,
how many people are there in the group? Like how many people normally?
I mean, less than 10 lah. Sometimes it's just one. Like, I think as long as I have one person there, I'm okay. But sometimes
No,
it can go up to like
I want to
5.
come to your defense. I used to do that as well when I was
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Wait, Melissa, why don't you just go on YouTube and search for someone studying, like just a YouTube video of someone studying, and then you just put that in front of you and you just study? Because that was what I did for a while.
Yeah, actually it works. Like there's study with me YouTube videos. So it's just like basically half an hour of video, half an hour of someone studying. Then you just study with that person. Yeah, that works also for me.
Oh my God, what has become of the children nowadays? Okay, but I did saw something like these videos about study with me was going viral on YouTube, and then people were like using it during the lockdown period or the MCO period to focus on their studies. I mean, it's one way. Yeah, it's one way we can focus in our studies, lah. Nobody's judging. Nobody's judging.
Okay, good to know.
All right. So next we'll move on to the next question. Okay. Sijing. So how have maybe the travel restrictions have affected, maybe has your decision as a student to continue your term to study abroad? Has it affected your decision?
Because now there is no travel restrictions for Malaysian students to fly back to the UK, and also UK has exempt like people who return from Malaysia from self quarantine. So I think this might not affect me too much for now. But I think like a lot of people might encounter flight cancellations or other concerns like safety issues and the way your university conduct your teaching.
Okay, so then it's like has any of your friends actually like chose like they don't want to go back? Like maybe the parents are afraid or whatnot, or they think like, oh my God, if I go back, I have to spend more. Has any of them talked about it?
Yeah, so far I have one friend from Singapore. He confirmed don't want to go back for like the autumn term, the coming term. So because like he's worried about the situation in UK.
All right. Okay.
So he might fly back next year, like January.
So he won't be joining you guys if, let's say, you guys are going to graduate.
Yeah.
Okay.
But because we have like mixing method, remote and practical. So I think shouldn't be a problem for him.
Okay. I mean, I guess it will affect many of the students also because
Yeah,
this is a concern, yeah, and many parents are also very worried because all the children are still
yeah,
MBBs,
exactly.
right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So we'll move on. Okay. I think some of our board of directors actually came back from the UK. They flew back from the UK. So here's a question for Yanni. So the price of the flight tickets, I think during the lockdown and the MCO, it surged, right? So especially during the peak of the pandemic. So how did the travel expense increase the financial burden on the students, and how did you guys, like especially you, Yanni and Xiao, you guys had to come back? How did you guys cope with it?
Okay, so around like end of March or like early April, when all the universities like announced closure, everyone just flew back. So during that time, it was prices of flights were still okay until maybe start of April. Then it started to surge a lot, and throughout March and June, I think there were no flights at all. And like there was only one airline that was flying, and one ticket was like 900 plus pounds. It was really a lot. So during this time, a lot of people chose to stay back because they realized that it's too late for them to fly home now. So actually, I was one of them. Me and Shao were actually like one of them. And then yeah, but I was very lucky because like I found this Facebook group. It sounds a bit dodgy, but it's legitimate. So I found this Facebook group where Education Malaysia London and MAS collaborated to make this special flight for UK students to fly home, which was really nice of them. And my flight ticket was around £800, including like tax and everything. So like I could take a direct flight and not do any stops in like Dubai or whatever to like go home in June. Yeah, end of June. Yeah, but then if I stayed any longer, a direct flight from UK to Malaysia in July is like 1.6k, like pounds or ringgit, either one. But I think it was pounds. Yeah, pounds. It was a lot, so I was like, okay, better like quickly chow. Yeah. For those students who wanted to do a part-time job or something, it was really unfortunate for them because no restaurants or like no non-essential shops were open, so they could only choose to work as a frontliner, maybe like work in a pharmacy. A lot of my pharmacy friends, they actually took on a part-time job in Boots or just like a private pharmacy to like earn money. So yeah.
Wow. Okay. And like, were there any of your Malaysian friends maybe were left behind? They choose to not come back because they want to avoid the financial burden?
Not really. A lot of people just flew as fast as they could. Like even those who stayed back, right? They had their flights like pre-arranged for them, so they were gonna leave after their exams. So maybe in like July and stuff and June, but they did not buy the ticket in July or June. They bought it like maybe January or February. Yeah, but it got delayed really, really long later.
Okay. And how is it that you guys are you guys planning to go back like anytime soon? And is the price also very expensive at the moment? Or when is the soonest time you guys are going back?
I decided to go back in October or November around there because I was given the option to do my classes online and postpone my placements and face-to-face teachings to maybe term 2. But I still feel that it's best to be there in person and go to my placements and not have anything postponed. So I'm thinking of going back after everyone goes back. So I don't have to, like have too much, what's that word? Like,
Too many
there
people
won't be too
around?
many people around me. Yeah, because I'm
Uh-huh.
scared as well. Yeah.
Okay. And are you glad that you're back in Malaysia because the situation in UK is worse than Malaysia?
Yeah, I'm so glad. At first, I thought I was not gonna come back because I thought it was too expensive to fly back, and it was not worth it to stay in Malaysia for 2 months to fly back to UK and quarantine myself all over again. But I'm so glad that I came back because now that I'm in Malaysia, I can like go anywhere I want and like do anything I want. In UK, it was really bad because I had no friends there. It was very bad for my mental health, and I just didn't want to go through that anymore. I couldn't take it as well. So yeah,
I came back.
Yay, Malaysia boleh. Thank you, Dr. Malaysia. Okay, so yeah, all right. We had Yani and Shao who actually flew back, but we also have another two of our board directors who actually stayed back in the UK, and that is Wen and Apple. So for you guys who actually chose to stay in the UK amidst the whole pandemic, what was the primary motivation for your decision, and how did you cope with the life abroad and most of your peers when most of your peers actually left UK already? Wen?
So for me, yeah, I saw the mass exodus of Malaysian students, mostly my undergraduate friends in March. And I was thinking to myself, oh no, should I be following them? But because I think as a postgraduate, things were not as straightforward for us because the university didn't, for example, Imperial didn't tell us anything about, what was going to happen in the coming months. Whereas I think for the undergraduates, it's quite clear. They said like, yeah, we're going to stop classes and everything's going to be online from now on. So there was a very clear idea of what was happening for undergraduates. But for postgraduates, it was really just, everything was a blur. Nobody knew what was going on. I think, the reason why I chose to stay was because I didn't know when I would be able to go back into the lab. I think nobody anticipated that it would be at least 3-4 months until we could go back. And for me, I didn't want to be in a position where I would go back and then I wouldn't be able to come back when they did open the labs again. Because, who knows, like maybe there'll be restrictions traveling between the two countries. And I didn't want to have to then maybe extend my PhD for much longer. So I should mention that for my university, at least, they've said, if PhD students need to extend their PhDs, they will give extensions and not charge any additional fees or whatsoever. So that's a good thing. But I don't really want to stay, beyond what I had planned. Maybe a few months at the most, but not take a whole half a year more or a whole year more.
Of course, all of us want to graduate fast.
Exactly, all of us just want to get our doctorate over and done with.
Yep.
So that's the reason why I thought okay, maybe I won't go back because I don't know if I could come back when the labs open again. Yeah, so that was me. That's why I chose to stay. Yeah.
But wasn't your family worried? Were they so they were so afraid of your safety and whatnot?
Yeah, they were. I think another big reason why they were quite worried for me especially is because I live alone actually in London. So definitely the whole is she gonna be okay being isolated essentially for the whole of these few months. So I have to say it definitely for me really helped my mental health throughout the whole thing to continuously stay in touch with friends. So I was always in calls with friends and I'm really lucky because my friends were actually actively trying to check on me and make sure that I was okay. I think because they knew that I was living alone, so they were always just call in and say how are you today, how are things going. And my family was also calling me every day, which was nice because they went into MCO at the exact same time I started working from home. So suddenly I was able to talk to them every day, where usually I have to wait for weekends. So that was a good thing. I think despite living alone, I was never lonely, which is great. Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
What about Apple? How did you manage your time being in UK and whatnot? I think you actually enjoyed your time, I see, in the UK.
Well, I was lucky, I guess, because I had my partner stuck with me for 4 months, so it wasn't too bad. But even if I had the chance to go back home, I wouldn't, because it's a personal preference for me not to travel abroad in the pandemic. So how did I cope with life abroad? So I went for a lot of walks actually, and filled my time with a lot of new hobbies as well. And obviously MBIOSsymposium was really busy during those times, so I didn't feel useless or unproductive during that time.
Yeah, and I saw your house became like a jungle. There were so many
and
plants
I
around.
Plants.
Yeah.
One of my new hobbies is plant propagation. So.
Okay, and what did your family say when you chose to stay back in the UK?
They were quite happy with my decision. I guess it's always about explaining your reasons and try reasoning with them, and they're like, yeah, we agree with you, so it's not too bad.
Okay, I mean, besides getting new hobbies, and how did you actually cope? I mean, with everyone, with only your partner in your house, like you of course need some other interactions beside MBIOS and whatnot. Then you said you have other hobbies. After that, besides the hobbies, do you at any point in the time did you feel like, oh my god, I need to go out? Did you feel like that?
Go out as in go outdoors?
Yeah, go outdoors.
Yeah, I do. That's why I take like walks almost every day. I mean, in the UK, for MCO you can't go out at all, right?
Yeah.
For MCO, but in the UK we are allowed like an exercise once a day. So I took that chance and I went for walks every day, and that helps.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Okay. All right. Okay. Now, we'll move on to the next question. Okay, I guess one of our board of directors, I guess I'm sure every one of you know that Xiao went for an internship while she was in Malaysia. So the employment and internship for and graduates, how has your career plan been affected by the pandemic, and how did you manage your free time during the lockdown, Xiao?
If you mean during the lockdown, which means when I was in the UK, actually I was busy with exam and I still went out for run at least like 3 times per week, because I think that's very important to keep me motivated, at least for me, and I believe that if you stay outdoor, the risk of getting infection is actually quite low. So in the mid of June, I came back to Malaysia mainly because I have an internship. Because actually for me, if there is no need, I don't have to like take the risk of infecting the people in Malaysia, because there's still quite a high risk if I take a flight. So now I'm in Malaysia. I consider myself as lucky because my internship was not cancelled, even during the peak of this pandemic. So after finishing my, sorry?
Yeah, has it affected your internship in any way? Like, because maybe you have lesser friends around because you can't, like, you have to do social distancing in the labs or whatnot. So has it affected your internship experience?
I'm actually quite surprised. There are still quite a number of students, local students, who are doing internship in my lab. So something which I find quite interesting, and I don't really understand when there's a pandemic, but they still offer internship to students. I think they have their own thoughts. So anyway, things went pretty well in general, so I'm grateful for that. And so I'm now doing my internship. So 8:30 to 5:30 every day, Monday to Friday. But one thing to mention is that because I have a like compulsory internship, so it's under a scholar program. So it got reduced from 60 days to 45 days because I can't do the 60 days since I travel much later than I'm supposed to be. Yeah.
Okay. And I guess for you and Yenny, you guys had to when you guys came back from the UK, you had to be quarantined for 14 days. Maybe you want to share your experience?
Again, I think MBIOS and also the MUSOF program actually kept my schedule quite tight because I have something to work on. Yeah, so I think I spend my time mainly on the planning of MBIOS and also doing some workout indoors, doing some self-study. Yeah, it's not too bad though, because anyway, I'm still at home and I get to spend some time with my parents, even though they have to stay quite like a distance away from me. So yeah, it's not too bad. I think we should be grateful that at least we got a place to quarantine ourselves.
You were quarantined at home?
Yeah, I was quarantined at home. So there are actually different phases. Now I'm in Malaysia. Yeah, if you came back in March, you probably like don't have to be quarantined. If it's like between, I'm not very sure, but between May to June, you might have to quarantine yourself in the hotel. There's a quarantine center. But if you came back much later, like me, you only have to quarantine yourself in your own home. But make sure that you don't really interact much with your parents and families, and they don't interact with other people outside of your household.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I'm missing out one more person who actually came back from the UK, Melissa.
Yes.
Yeah, so Melissa actually also came back from the UK. Did you have a different experience for your 14-day quarantine?
Yeah, so actually, I came back really, really early. So it was like March. I think it was mid-March. So at that time, it was the start of the pandemic, right? When it really started blowing up. So actually, there were no protocols in place at all. Like legit, like I fly, I reach the airport, I go home. There were no tests, no nothing, because I think that time it was too early for them to implement anything. So yeah, so I did my 14 day. So the only thing that they did for us was they just gave us a piece of paper that says that, oh, you have to quarantine in your room for 14 days. That's all. So yeah, so I just quarantined in my room. I think I was very fortunate because my parents were around, so they could cook for me and like wash my dishes and stuff. So yeah, and then also one more thing is that I think what was really nice was that the students themselves, they actually self-report when they got the virus. So there were a lot of like online like Instagram stories going around like, okay guys, I have COVID and this is my flight, so that everyone can check their flights. And then I think UKEC, which is the umbrella body of all like Malaysian societies in UK, they actually compiled a list of all the flights that had someone infected. So that was actually really, really helpful, because at that time I think it was too early for the government to like do anything like, you know, contact tracing or anything. So yeah, I think it was really helpful that people actually took the initiative to self-report and spread it out.
Wah, hebat lah budak-budak Malaysia. Clap. Very good. Yeah. Wow, actually, I didn't know about this, but it's a good effort that all the Malaysian students are, you know, they were willing to tell everybody that, oh, okay, I have COVID and you guys have to be careful about it. Oh, that's fantastic. It's good to know this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what, Yanni, so do you have anything to add on your 14 days quarantine, and what did you actually learn from the ongoing pandemic?
Okay, so I quarantined at home as well. I had my own room and my own toilet. It was very nice because my mom will cook and she'll like put it outside my door. She'll knock on the door and then like she'll like run downstairs and she'll shout at me. She'll be like, Yanni, it's time to eat. Then I'm like, oh, okay. Then I'll open the door. Yeah, and like if I need anything, I'll just like FaceTime call her. In fact, I FaceTime a lot of people. I even FaceTime Shao to like do some MBIOS things. And like we had this thing called MBIOS office hour, which is when she's free and I'm free, and we'll do like some MBIOS stuff. Just some, and then we'll like chat a bit. Yeah. Okay. But during that time, I felt like even though I was back at home, but I still felt really like sad because I'm an extrovert and I need to talk to people like face to face. So I couldn't wait to get out of my quarantine. Yeah. So like on day 12, where I could go and check if I have COVID or not, like the blood test, my antibody test, Yeah. So I was really excited to go. Then I went to the clinic and everyone was just like really excited to get their bands cut. I don't know why we were so confident that we will get a negative, but everyone was just like, they couldn't like wait for their turn. And then like I got my band cut off on the 12th day, even though it's supposed to be 14 days, because I was already tested negative and they said that I can get it cut off. So I was like, yay. And, but so it was definitely an experience. Yeah, because it was quite an experience, because when I reached the airport in Malaysia, they made me do this COVID test, like the COVID swab test, before I could even go past the customs. Yeah. So like they make sure that you really do the test, and like, you know, they wouldn't leave anyone behind. And obviously download the My Sejahtera app before you land, so you can, you know, have your details like all typed out and ready for them to check. And yeah, I think it's really smart, and I think it's a really good app to use. So everyone use your My Sejahtera app.
Yes, everybody use your My Sejahtera app. Don't go anywhere, simply never check in. Later no Isham can tangkap you. Okay, yeah, I guess, oh wait, so it's like Yanni, Shao, Sijing and Melissa all came back from the UK, and all of you had like 3 times a day room service from your own parents. They'll be like bringing food to you, like, okay, here, food ready for you.
Kind of, yes.
Yeah, basically.
Oh my god, kesian. 14 days being with your family, but not like with your family.
Yeah.
Right? Oh god. But I'm glad that it's over. Okay, so before we finish off, just one last question towards everybody. Okay, we'll go like one by one lah. Okay, see who will answer it first. So, is any one of you actually considering to defer your academic year, and why? Maybe we'll start with Yenny.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mean defer as in
Yeah, your
like
academic
skip
year.
my third year
Yeah.
and then wait? No,
Mm-hmm.
no, because
Want to
I think
graduate
I can
law?
still learn things online, like even though it's online classes and a lot of online discussion, but I never thought of deferring at the start of my degree, like back in first year. So I think now we just have to be really determined and very disciplined so you can get the best out of like your studies and like what your uni is providing with you, because UCL's very good to us. Like they are helping us plan and everything and trying to put even our lab sessions online. I don't know how are they gonna do that, but they're gonna do that. And then if I have the chance to go into uni, which they strongly encourage for small group face-to-face teachings, I'll definitely go. But it's just a matter of time, and maybe it'll take me some time to get used to online learning and getting used to this level of discipline, but I'm definitely not deferring.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Xiao?
I personally prefer to complete my study in the UK without taking a gap year or something, because it's never part of the plan, even though COVID-19 is also not part of the plan, but it happens, something I can't control. But I can choose to complete my study still like as I planned. So, and also I'll be graduating after 9 months. So there's really not an option for me to defer a year. Yeah.
Right. We'll move on to Melissa.
Yeah, so for me, I'm not deferring as well. I think if I look at the career point of view, I feel like I should defer, because as someone who wants to do research, right, I think without the lab skills, like I would prefer doing like in-class lab sessions. So actually my third year project is supposed to be a lab project, but then most of the lab sessions are cancelled and they're gonna give us like readily available results instead. So I think for career wise, I think that's not very ideal. But then I still decided not to defer, because I think because of like the comfort point of view, right? So I just feel like if I defer, because I feel like I've already settled down right now, and if I defer, I have to, start all over again with like a new batch of classmates, new batch of friends, and I'm worried that if I stop studying for a year, I might find it hard to start again, start studying again. So yeah, so I'm not deferring more because of the comfort point of view and not really like the career side. Yeah.
Okay. Sijing?
Yes, I'm not deferring as well, because I don't want to delay my graduate. And our department they are making sure that the learning outcome is the same for us, whether we are on campus or not. So I think, yeah, I'm not deferring.
Yeah, all our undergraduate students all hebat, don't want to defer. Very good. Okay. I guess there's no option for Apple and Wen and of course myself, because we're all postgraduate. We cannot like want to defer, never defer. It's the same thing, I think. Right? And anything you want to add, Wen or Apple?
I guess I should say that you can take something called an interruption of studies, and essentially if you're being funded, for example, you will stop your funding for a certain period of time, and then you come back and make up for that lost time, when you decide to. My university has recommended that we, as much as possible, not try to take an interruption of studies and maybe try and get an extension instead. Again, I think it goes back to me. I don't really want to delay my graduation longer than it really needs to be. So I don't think I'm gonna interrupt or defer or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, like usually for extension, it's only for final year students. So if you're in first or second year, it's quite hard for your extension to be accepted as well. Yeah, and just to add on to the undergraduate side of things. So if I were still an undergraduate, like I would probably not defer, because apart from the points being touched by the rest, there's also visa issues. So you already have your BRP set to expire on this date, and then you would have to reapply again. I'm not really sure what the process is, but it's going to be really inconvenient if you have to defer for international students.
Okay, all right. Well, I think you all Malaysian students, most of us, we are very determined to finish our studies and faster want to graduate. All right, so that brings us to the end of our session, and I hope that you guys, those of you who are watching, you share the same opinions or insights that we share here, and we hope that you continue to support MBIOS, and we wish you a pleasant day and take care. Thank you for watching.